Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here for the 28th of April 2020. We're going to go over the January 27th, or January? No, April 27th version of Raw here on Pro Wrestling Logic. And we're going to run through the show. Overall, I thought the show was a decent show. If you're new here, please like, subscribe, comment below. We'll ask some questions for you to comment on. And also, there's a bunch of good content, usually several videos every day of an old school and new school nature. So we open the program by Tom Phillips, Byron Saxton, and Samoa Joe are tonight's announcers. Lawler is in the main event contract signing segment. That is where he scampered off to for this particular evening. I actually thought they had gotten more intelligent and maybe left him home, being that he's in a high-risk COVID group. In any event, we open with the VIP lounge. Ring is set up kind of like a nightclub. And MVP spoke about Money in the Bank, the importance of the match, introduces Mysterio, Aleister Black, and Apollo Crews. They all come out one at a time, kind of killing some time, and then ask Aleister Black not to break anything. And they all kind of sit down. MVP waits to ask some questions. MVP asks Mysterio of a general question before he could answer. MVP answers for him. MVP allowed Crews to talk, but soon cuts him off as well. And then we see the group led by Zelina Vega of Andrade and Angel Garza and Austin Theory. Vega called them all the future and said that none of the people in the ring could measure up. They entered the ring. It's fine. It does beg the question, A, why is Rey Mysterio, who's very close to retirement age, at least one would assume, in a Money in the Bank match? Secondarily, it also begs the question, why is the Raw representation for Money in the Bank all on the babyface side? Thirdly, it begs the question, why haven't we given Zelina Vega's group a name of some sort so we can identify them quickly rather than calling them out by individual names? These are all questions that are easy to answer and could be answered if the writing team gave something of a half a damn. In any way, Vega went on for a while, and she says that her men should be able to replace the trio that is already in the Money in the Bank, and she's out there to pick a fight. And then we go into the six-man tag team match, which runs quite a while. Actually, I found the match to be too long. To me, it would have been better. See, I'm a big fan of the concept of every match having a consequence, every match having a reason, and I don't understand why, if we're writing episodic television, we can't come to the same conclusion. To me, it would have been better for this to be a tag match. I'll get to why in a second. But basically, if Apollo Crews and Andrade are going to do battle for the championship anyway, the United States Championship anyway, why do we need to see Andrade and Crews twice? We could put them in their own segment and make them special. It's kind of like saying, do you remember the first time you slept with your girlfriend or boyfriend? Yes, it's special. Do you remember the 88th time you did the same? No, probably not. Not unless, something really weird happened. Point being, overexposure is a thing, especially in these empty arena programs, and it's kind of pointless to go in that direction. Mysterio went for a double 619 early, but Andrade tagged himself in, does a cutoff. Mysterio with some takedowns and went for the 619 again and pulls him off. Black and Crews hit flip dives onto Garza and Theory, which led to a commercial break. Again, dives in an empty arena makes about as much sense as ordering Omaha steaks for a bunch of vegetarians, but that's neither here nor there. Mysterio is getting beat up when we come back from the break. Black is down on the outside, building the odds against Mysterio even further, which is stupid because if Mysterio is close to retirement age and he's an older veteran. Shouldn't people be trying to protect him, at least in theory? He's a veteran, he's an all-star, he's a legend, and we should care about protecting him from injuring himself. Right? Right. Anyway, after a while, Mysterio hits a tilt-a-whirl DDT and then tags into Apollo Crews using shoulder tackles, neck breakers, in theory. Breaks up the cover. Theory responds with a beautiful neck breaker for a near fall. Black knees his adversary and knees Theory, and Garza hits a super kick on Black. Material back in with a seated senton. And then Andrade tosses Mysterio from the ring rather viciously. Andrade gives Crews a hard spinning back elbow, almost like the Judas effect for a near fall. Crews follows up with a sit-out powerbomb for the pinfall win. Crews pins the U.S. champion. Garza tries to break it up, but Mysterio stopped him. Then we're continuing to count down Triple H's best moments. I'm not even going to acknowledge these because, well, A, it's all rerun content. And here's the interesting thing. I've decided that I'm going to watch first run programming, so that's Ring of Honor. Maybe Ring of Honor when they return to first run programming. Raw, SmackDown, NXT, AEW, Impact, and maybe a couple other shows here and there, but at least those 5 shows. And I'm going to watch them on a weekly basis, SmackDown too. But I'm only going to watch the first run content. And what's amazing to me, in a 3-hour show, I clocked it. It took me under 90 minutes to watch a 3-hour show if I cut the commercials and the video packages. That's inexcusable. Do we really need 30 to 45 minutes of video packages just to fill time? They wonder why people are tuning out. I'm not saying the video packages don't have a place, but they have a place in plugging pay-per-views. They have a place in, putting together a whole story for like a main event contest. They do not have a place in filling time every week on TV. It's lazy, it's foolish, and it's killing the ratings. And that goes out to every independent and national company. Cut back on your video packages if you want to hold a fan's attention. If I've seen it before, why do I want to see it again? It's the same reason men and women cheat on each other. It's a basic human principle. If I've seen you before, unless you're doing something new with what I'm looking at, why do I want to see it again? This goes for television, it goes for stage shows, it goes for music. Why do you think the best bands do first run playlists? It's the same basic reason. And to be on a national level of entertainment and not understand this very simple principle, I really think there's some post-concussion syndrome or something else going on here that the people writing television don't understand this basic concept. Anyway, we go back to the fact that Triple H is being plugged. So a guy that has been out of the ring full-time for 10 years, at least, something like that, is worthy of receiving, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever, of television time, plus 30 minutes of the SmackDown show last week. So we round it off. Make it easy. We give a guy, out of 5 hours of first-run television programming last week, or within the past 7 days, Hunter gets 20% of that? A guy who's not going to be drawing any money for the company. A guy who's not going to be doing anything other than maybe wrestling at most, let's call it 4 times a year, with the Saudi Arabia shows, maybe WrestleMania and SummerSlam. So 4 times a year gets 20% of an off-week's unbranded television programming. Why? Because the writers are burnt out or lazy, or Vince doesn't want to do the work to come up with new content, but regardless, there's no rationalization for the behavior, there's no rationalization for the practice, and in reality, I guarantee you, if you go segment by segment in the ratings, these points in the segments have caused people to tune out, and everyone's going to go, why is Raw's ratings going down? Because people don't want to see crap they've seen before. This is basic 3rd grade logic. Talk to your kid. Talk to your kid about, if you have kids, talk to your kid about what they like about school. Hey, I learned something new. Not, Hey, I heard the same thing 3 times in the last week. Hey, they repeated the same stuff. People like new ground. This is a basic human principle that many in entertainment seem to be passing by. Anyway, rant over. Charlie Caruso interrupts an argument between Andrade and Vega. Caruso asks what went wrong in the match. Vega says that his teammates let him down, and he agreed. Andrade says that Cruz couldn't beat him one on one. This leads to a setup for the match later. Cruz with a vicious slap. I mean, you want to talk a slap. Man, he took the taste so far out of his mouth, his taste buds are on his bootlaces with that slap. And so it's an interesting thing because Vega is now ticked off, and Cruz wanted a title match, and he gets one later this evening. Another video recap between Rollins and McIntyre this time. Then we jump into another Triple H debacle. Somewhere along the way here, we jumped into the second hour. Triple threat semi-match. This is a match that actually didn't happen. Asuka, Nia Jax, and Shayna Baszler do battle. Asuka enters, the announcers talking about Asuka having personal issues in the match. Asuka then talks a bunch in, a pre-match promo, reminding us that she's tapped out Nia Jax and beat her up quite a bit. Jax then comes out, music interrupts. Baszler yanks Asuka out of the ring, tossed her into the ladder. All three of them brawled around, and Jax eventually got the better of them. She rammed the ladder into both women, sending them to the outside, and then teased jumping the ladder on top of them, but just dropped it in the ring instead. Then they played Nia's music and sent her away. I suppose this means we are building Nia Jax to be a major force in the Money in the Bank ladder concept. Couple questions. Might I quote the 25th letter of the alphabet? Why? Nia Jax has had her time in the sun. She's injured multiple people. She has had reconstructive knee surgery, which the announcers seem to point out every week. So why would you take a chance on a girl who, A, is dangerous, B, is injury prone, C, is not the atypical poster child for the advancement of the women's division, the women's revolution, the women's evolution, and or equality for women in professional wrestling? I don't get it. Oh yeah, that's right. She looks atypical, therefore she's a bigger girl, therefore we're giving her an opportunity to shine because she looks different. No, we tried that already. I get it. Oh yeah, she's related to The Rock, and therefore if we push her, then The Rock will be on good terms with us. Wait a second. He's already acknowledged the WWE in the last little while, and AEW, so he's already watching. We don't need to care about that. I know. We're giving her a shot because we've never done this before, except we've been doing this for years. Nope, not that either. There's no logical reason to be pushing Nia Jax this much. There's no way to explain this positively. Then, Bobby Lashley tells Lana that she should remain in the back. I actually like this because it shows that Lashley has some degree of manhood left, which after the last several months of storylines, most people would wonder about. Lana is offended by this until he explains that her presence at ringside is a distraction. She's so beautiful. She's so wonderful. She's the greatest thing since unicorns rubbing their unicorns on mountaintops or something. In any event, Lashley goes out and destroys a enhancement talent in just over a minute and a half. To me, the enhancement talent got a little bit too much essence here. You got a little bit too much offense. And then I will say his facials are good. He looks scared of Lashley. Lashley attacks him and wins with a suplex and spear combination. And then they plugged the new Battlegrounds video game that's coming out. Commercial ends with Charlotte Flair decking Becky Lynch. So, I'm not a Bobby Lashley fan per se because I think he's had too many chances. But if we're going to use Bobby Lashley, we might as well use the fact that he's a former MMA fighter, and we might as well poke fun at the fact that on the other brand, oh yeah, there's AEW, remember them? On the other brand, there's another MMA fighter, Jake Hager, who happens to be a former champion, just like Lashley, who happens to have run away and didn't want to face Lashley. We could call Bobby Lashley the Almighty Alpha. And the Almighty Alpha runs off other supposed MMA fighters. I'm the best fighter in the world, he might say. I would take on anybody in any combat sport in the world, he might say. Matter of fact, there's a guy who's on another channel who ran away because he didn't want to do battle with me, and he's in Bellator, he might say. If you're going to use Bobby Lashley, use him for his strong point, which is the fact that he has a real fighting background, especially now with the rumors that Brock Lesnar is not going to return. You've got to have, to look competitive anyway, you've got to have a fighter who happens to have MMA background, and if Lashley's that for you, then you might as well work with it. Also, too, Bobby Lashley is a guy who's getting older, so if you're going to pull the trigger on him, you might want to do it sooner rather than later. Now, Liv Morgan against Ruby Riott goes just under 3 minutes. They do a match that was done last week with no explanation why. This is why it's good to have a championship committee, president, commissioner, or some other authority figure who makes matches, who could briefly explain in about 45 seconds that the loser of last week's match wanted a rematch, and it was granted on the basis of the history between the two. Rah, rah, sis, boom, bah, and everybody wins. Anyway, Ruby Riott hits a Riott kick about a minute and a half into the contest. Morgan gets away and is able to win. Then she kicks out of the move. Riott looks overly stunned. Her facial does not match the brevity of the moment, so that's a bit of a problem. Then we see Liv Morgan hit the flatliner off the ropes for pinfall. I guess they call that move the Oblivion now. Why not? Is it the Olivian? Anyway, they send Byron Saxton, who looks like a $3 rented suit type announcer, up into the ring to ask Morgan if this was the start of a new chapter in her life. Morgan says she's had so many chapters and there's many more to come. She's like many people her age, trying to figure out who she was, and confident she'd figure it out. Okay, so she's just won a match. Good thing. Potentially in an alternate universe, she just made a bunch of money, right? So she should be happy, right? This should lead her to know who she is even more, right? She's a winner. She's a future champion. She's a role model. Instead, they make her look like a complete millennial putz who has no idea who she is. Now, if you really want to push this character, here's how you do it. So, we're in the middle of this coronavirus, right? And I know we can't say that on WWE TV, but let's pretend that we all put on our big girl and big boy pants and shorts and shoes, and we can talk about reality. And so, Liv grabs the microphone and she says, Ruby Riott, you held me back. You held me down. I listened to you for years. Where did it get me? It got me to be some second string woman in WWE. This is the land of opportunity. It's the land of chances, the land of choices. And you stopped me from being myself. But you know what? A few weeks ago, I broke away from you. A few weeks ago, I finally see the light. And with all that's going on in the world, with all the people dying in the world, with everything that's going on, the one thing that's for sure is that being away from you has taught me that I want to live again. And that means I'm going to be the best woman in the WWE. And that means I'm going to fight harder. And that means I'm going to look better. And that means I'm going to take risks. And that means I'm going to be a history maker, a difference maker, somebody that people are talking about, somebody trending on social media. I'm going to live again like I'm living for the first time. Fans at home, man, I miss you. I want you here with me. But until you can get back with me, until you can be here in the stands cheering me on, can you do me a favor? Can you prove to me how you want to live again with me? Live again. Hashtag live again. Social media. Show the world we're going to change things. And Ruby Riott, thank you. Thank you for holding me back. Thank you for limiting me. Because at the end of the day, what you've taught me is that I deserve, we deserve to live. Now again, I came up with that in 45 seconds watching the program. Is it really that hard for these individuals to give these characters some level of depth and purpose? Yes, so, because it hasn't been done in years. Anyway, another Triple H moment, another reason to tune out of the program. Caruso approached Nia Jax backstage and told her people were questioning her actions. Jax says that she doesn't care what anybody else thinks. Says that she could do that no one could do anything about her, and no one's going to stop her. Viking Raiders cut a promo on the Street Profits. They say the Street Profits have never beaten them. They say they've always been in the wrong place at the wrong time. Right, the Viking Raiders give them opportunities when the Raiders aren't around. Street Profits may have the belts now, but they're just placeholders, and we want that smoke to close out. I mean, it was fine, but part of the draw of the Viking Raiders is that they don't talk much. Part of the draw is that they're savage. Part of the draw is that they're intense. I would rather have seen them do 15 seconds. Street Profits. We win. You lose. Championship hours. Game over. Up in smoke. Just taglines than what they tried to do here, but that's just a personal preference. Then we see the return of Jinder Mahal. Not quite sure I understand why, but Jinder Mahal against Akira Tozawa. They run about just over a minute and a half. Mahal tosses Tozawa around ringside and gets a Samoan drop and then his finish. Caruso wants to ask Andrade a question backstage. Vega steps in and says that Caruso doesn't need to talk to anyone in her stable and that all questions should go through her. Another Triple H moment. Then Andrade, with Zelina Vega, defeats Apollo Crews via ref stoppage to retain the U.S. title in 16 minutes, 48 seconds. Good match. I mean, good back and forth action. Andrade avoids a dive, hits a clothesline for a near fall. Then we have entered into the third hour in the middle of the break. Andrade in control applies single leg crab. Good slowdowns, misses the double knee strike at a point. Apollo hits the slam. Apollo hits clotheslines and shoulder tackles and all sorts of other offense. Then we see him hit a stinger splash, an overhead belly-to-belly suplex, press slam, and all sorts of other really good moves. They trade strikes until Andrade comes back with a press slam into a DDT for near fall. Crews went for a frog splash, but Andrade moved, and Crews landed awkwardly on his leg. Andrade tried to attack, but the referee stopped him. Crews says that he wasn't injured enough to have the ref stop the match, but the ref calls for the bell anyway because Crews could not continue. And Andrade retained the championship in what was a fine match. So, here's the deal. Number one, this went way too long with the fact we've already seen Apollo Crews and Andrade earlier in the contest, in the night. Like, if you're going to do a match that's 15 minutes plus through multiple segments, then you need to have them be fresh out there. Otherwise, it's like, I just saw you, why should I care? Secondarily, they could have built this up for next week. Hey, Apollo Crews beats Andrade 1, 2, 3 in the six man. Next week, he gets a shot at the championship and left people wanting more. That's the basic concept of actual storytelling, is leave them wanting more next week. Thirdly, I love the mind control that's being used by Paul Heyman and those involved. You say, what do I mean? Well, let's see. What they're doing is reconditioning the audience to believe that ref stoppages and submission victories and being unable to continue is now a viable finish. They did it with Sarah Logan and Shayna Baszler. Now they're doing it with the men with Apollo here. Great! If you follow through with it, it means something. You can't do it every week. Now they should rest that idea for at least a month or two. Shouldn't do it again. But the next time they do it, they should go back to, remember Shayna Baszler stopped her matches with Sarah Logan with a stomp to the arm. Remember when Apollo Crews was stomped, and missed the frog splash or twisted his knee, whatever. Remember this. That means it can happen at any time. This is beautiful, but the announcers need to tie this back together when this happens again, and it can't happen every week, otherwise it'll lose its impact. We see Becky Lynch with her 24 documentary clips, which is fine. So then we see Ricochet and Cedric Alexander defeat Everrise, which is Chase Parker and Matt Martel, in just over 4 minutes. It was fine. I mean, I love the team of Cedric Alexander and Ricochet. I think they could be a really cool Rockers or London and Kendrick, or name your high-flying tag team here. High energy, whatever. But we haven't established why they're together. We haven't established why it matters. We haven't established a team for them to feud with. We haven't established anything other than they're friends who wrestle well together and they win. And until we establish why, no one should care. Because they're two guys who happen to be friends, who happen to engage in tag matches, who happen to win a lot, which is fine for 2 or 3 weeks. But if we want people to care about and be invested in the story related to them in general, we have to give them a reason why. MVP appears on the screen backstage and congratulates them both. He wants to introduce them to the team of Shane Thorne and Braxton Vick. MVP says that their win over Thorne and Vick last week was a fluke, and they will have a rematch next week. I don't know that guys from the non-main roster should be where Ricochet and Cedric Alexander are spending their time. I wish there was more teams already on the roster. This goes into Vince's whole, we're building up Raw, we're building up a new roster because we haven't done so in the last 18 years. BS, moment, movement, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, final segment of the night. Not a fan of this. There are good points to the segment, though, so we'll hit on those. Jerry Lawler hosts the contract signing. This is like the 872nd contract signing we've seen in the WWE since WrestleMania 3. The reason it worked at WrestleMania 3 is because Roddy Piper was involved and it was novel. The reason it doesn't work now is we've seen so many of them, we know what happens. Lawler is out there and he leaves just in case the things go the way they normally go. I like the fact that Drew McIntyre now acknowledges, hey, you know how these things go. You might want to leave early. They sit down and McIntyre says, this is stupid. We can get the contract signed in 22nd. So then Rollins says that he asks if he really wants this and that he's a leader. Now, this is just it's such a scripted promo that doesn't have any meat to it that makes people think, is what he's saying true? Now I'm gonna recut for you what Seth Rollins could have said that would have made people wonder about his legitimacy to what he's claiming. You know, my entire life in pro wrestling, all I've ever wanted to be was a champion. And in order to be a champion, you have to be a leader. And everywhere I've gone, I've been that leader. Don't believe me? Look at the history books. Ring of Honor, I was a leader. The formation of the Shield, I was a leader. Heck, even when the Authority needed somebody to count on in the last few years, I was a leader. I went out and got it done. I did their bidding for them. I've been a leader my entire career. Drew, I know you want it. I get it. I've been where you are. I know where you're at. But you don't have it. You know how I know you don't have it? You were here years ago, over a decade ago. You were charted as Vince McMahon's chosen one. And then you dropped the ball. And you dropped the ball in such a way you disappeared for years. And you had to go back to living hand to mouth. You had to go back to being less than. You had to go back to lesser promotions. You had to go back to places that no one would want to go. And then you come back, Drew. Amid much fanfare, it's a big deal. You've come home, you're the prodigal son. And you fight and you fight and you win and you lose and you do all sorts of things. And you're no longer a member of a 3-man band. No, you're ready for the main event. You're ready for the big time. You're ready for the championship. You're ready for it all. And you fight and you fight and you get there. And then you get your moment. And yes, you beat Brock Lesnar in less than 5 minutes. And yes, you're one of 50 plus men to ever hold that championship. But Drew, you still weren't ready. Because you won that championship in front of an empty arena. You have no idea what it's like to please these fans night after night. I do. You have no idea what it's like to hold up against online and offline criticism. I do. You have no idea what it's like to hold in your hands the entire reputation of a global company. I do. So, Drew, when you say you want to lead, I believe you. But when you say you can, I don't. So in order to save the wrestling industry, in order to save the WWE, in order to be the leader in a world that needs a leader now more than ever, people are dying all around us. The world is changing all around us. They wonder what the new normal is going to be. And I'll tell you, Seth Rollins will be part of the new normal because Seth Rollins will be the next WWE champion. Not because I want to be, but because I have to be. I'm doing this for each and every one of you at home. I'm doing this for each and every wrestler that's in that locker room or ever wants to be in that locker room. I'm doing this because I'm willing to sacrifice where others aren't. And come Money in the Bank, I'm going to show my monetary value by winning that championship. Drew, what are you going to show? I think you're going to show that you're just another flash in the pan. You're just another chosen one who couldn't take the heat. Again, that's how you cut a promo that makes people wonder, is he serious? Does he have validity? Does he have value? Overall, Raw wasn't a bad show. But as we've seen in this review, it could easily have been improved on, especially the promo version of things. In any event, I encourage you. This is Pro Wrestling Logic. Subscribe, like, comment below. What did you think of tonight's Raw in comparison to Raw over the past 2 or 3 weeks? And we will be back with more of the Superstars of Wrestling review. If you have something you want to see reviewed on the channel, please comment, and we will do that. And until then, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Until next time, everybody.